Hello, wonderful. It is Sarah, and I'm here with Amy Roeder, and she is a licensed associate counselor in New Jersey and also a mindset and dating coach for women who are 30 to 45 years old. So you can see why she's just such a perfect fit for the Toxic Person Proof podcast. And so today, we're going to talk about sitting with uncomfortable feelings. Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, good. Even though this is a tough topic, right? And we were talking a little bit before we hit record and saying, oh yeah, you kind of get used to these really tough topics all the time, right?
Yes,
You get
yes,
really used to these. Yes, you get really used to these tough topics. And tell us a bit about your history and journey or solutions, whatever you feel like is the best fit with sitting with uncomfortable feelings.
Absolutely. So, we get taught when we are younger, especially as women, that we are emotional and we need to be smaller and quieter and kind of complementary to whoever's next to us. So, we get taught that with that, emotions are bad. And if they're too big, we need to figure out somehow to bottle them up. So it's not uncomfortable, or we're told that those emotions are unattractive. So a lot of us spend a lot of time with shame and embarrassment around our emotions, and spend a lot of money in like therapy and other places to figure out how to get rid of the emotions. Some people use alcohol, some people use drugs, some people, whatever it is we're doing. And the goal seems to be so we stop feeling so much, right?
So that's something important to point out, because I work with obviously people who have been in toxic relationships, and they'll say things like, well, how do I not let the toxic person bother me? And I'm like, it seems like the toxic person should have been bothering you for 10 years.
Right.
And because of you bottled away those uncomfortable feelings. You bottled away that because it is uncomfortable. And I talk about if there's a crocodile, and the crocodile's biting you, and you're like, hey, is there any medicine you have so my arm can go numb? So when the crocodile's gnawing on it, I don't notice it as much. And we don't realize that's what we're asking. But it kind of is, right?
100%. And that's also where the manipulation comes in,
yes.
Right? Because then it's like, why are you so emotional? Like, relax. Like, what's,
Stop being too sensitive. You're so sensitive. Right. I should be able to be as mean to you as I want, and it shouldn't bother you.
Right. Why is this bothering you? Yeah. So we lose our ability to monitor and really step back and look at emotion, because we've been trained to believe that any emotion is like showing that we're out of control, and that there's something wrong with us. And that's very, very a dangerous place to be. So in my practice, I work with a lot of clients who have anxiety. And anxiety is like that. I always explain it like it's when we were cavemen, or cave women, right? And we saw something behind a tree, and it was either a rock or a lion. We survived by always thinking it was a lion, right? Even if 99% of the time it was a rock, it kept us alive to think it was a lion. Now, fast forward, where we're actually in a much safer kind of situation. Our brain has developed where we can see something, think it's a lion, but we actually have some space if we allow ourselves to sit in that emotion, to really look at what's happening and decide whether it's a rock or a lion, or somewhere in between. Maybe it's a feral cat and we need to do something about it, right? But it's not one or the other, right?
Yeah, I talk about, is there my clients, many of them, there's been like a crocodile in their bed, and then the crocodile leaves, and now there's a crocodile in their head.
100%.
But to your nervous system, right? Your nervous system doesn't know the difference.
Exactly.
So it's like you're getting chewed on all the time or attacked all the time. And it's like, there's no crocodile there. We have to change our mindset, change our neural pathways, change our nervous system to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. We want it to fire up when there's an actual crocodile.
Yes.
And we want to manage it and calm it and create peace for ourselves when there's not a crocodile.
Right. So there are, when we learn to just not trust our emotions, because this is the journey, right? We're ignoring what's going on because we want something that's a part of that relationship. So we kind of quiet that emotion and stick around. And then afterwards, it's like we're misfiring, right? Yeah. Like you said, like the crocodiles in your head. So we're misfiring. So then sometimes we get caught in this belief that we just can't trust ourselves. And it's not that we can't trust ourselves. It's that we're reacting and making a decision too quickly. It needs that investigation, right?
Okay, I love that. And I love, I talk about collecting data,
mm-hmm.
right? And I think too easily we say, oh, that person's red light, green light.
Yes.
And really, when we're meeting new people in new situations, everything should be a yellow light.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a yellow light longer than we're allowing it to be. Because our brains, like, we want to put people in categories really easy, safe, not safe, good, bad, and that gets us in trouble, with different ethnic groups, with different professions. Oh, all teachers are bad. All football players are great. All, whatever it is. And really, it's being a grown-up, right? And that wisdom.
It's understanding that sitting in it, you're going to be able to survive sitting in it.
Okay. So how do you survive sitting in it? That's a huge issue for my ladies.
So it's not dwelling in it.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, good distinction.
Up, right?
Yes.
It's investigating it, like you were saying before, or like when we're talking about the metaphor of the tree with something behind it, it's investigating it. So you go out with a guy and we all have different sensitivities, right? So depending on what your history is, you go out with a guy and he's like, oh, you look hot. And your brain says, all he wants is my body. He doesn't really want what's inside. Like all he wants to do is have sex. And then it's not like, don't think that, or yes, it's true. It's sitting in it and being like, okay, my brain just did that. What evidence do I actually have to support it? Do I need more evidence to really know if it's true? And believing and understanding that you, being an adult, like you said, can investigate more and remain safe. Mm-hmm. So you can have another I'm not saying like invite him back to your apartment and like see what happens, right? But you can have more conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you can go on another date with him and not be sure. Mm-hmm. That response from him isn't, like you said, a red light or a green light. It is the yellow where you're like, okay, I need more investigation. Because we also have in our emotions, sometimes we have in our emotions, especially when we come from trauma, that misfiring, right? Because our brain is trying to make sure that the pain that we felt, we never ever feel again.
Yeah.
But it casts a huge net. And what it actually does is prevents us from feeling pleasure also, because it's keeping us safe.
That's really important.
Yes.
That's really important. So when we turn off our feelings, we don't get to just turn off. We don't just get to numb out the bad stuff. We numb out the good stuff.
Yes, exactly. So part of my journey was early on, I was dating a guy and he cheated on me and hooked up with my best friend, and he fed me some bullshit line. Sorry, am I allowed to say
That's
that?
okay. Yeah.
Okay. I usually ask before.
I'm filming this from my mother's house. And I was telling that my kids just went virtual. And so it was like, I had a whole schedule today. And it was just like, well, we're just going to adapt. So they're like playing outside, and here I am at my mother's house. So I won't tell my mother you use the S word.
Okay. Sorry, Mom. So he told me that he did that. I was like, why didn't you just break up with me and then go do whatever you wanted to do? And he said he didn't want to hurt me, which is such a lie, right?
Yeah,
He didn't want to hurt me. Like this, I could see that now. But when I was younger,
yeah, true. Yeah.
my brain said, this didn't feel good. And if a guy thinks I like him too much, he's going to hurt me and cheat on me rather than just break up with me because he's going to think that I like need him to survive, which was not the case, by the way, in this situation.
Yeah.
So then I went on this journey for years where every relationship that I was in, and let me air quote relationship because they weren't really relationships, but every guy I was with, I made very, very clear to them that I was not dependent on them, that I didn't need them, that they could walk out the door whenever they wanted, and I was going to be just fine. And that's true. However, I was doing it from a place of protection and I had a wall up. So I wasn't really letting them in. There was no vulnerability there. And at some point I had to realize that, yes, that would 100% keep me safe by doing that. I never felt anything in relationships when I was doing that. And I was never going to feel anything in relationships if I kept doing that. So as we go through life, you know, a lot of my clients, like, to protect themselves, want there to be like an answer, like, oh, if I just follow this, then
okay. Please, let's talk about that. Okay. Because some people say, oh, you know, what are my red flags list? You know, if I watch out for these 10 red flags, then it's like, come on. If I got a 13-year-old girl in here and I said, okay, if he's mean to your best friend, if you don't know what he's doing all the time, if he wants to see your phone, if he is getting in trouble with his teachers, if he do we think these are red flags or no? And they're going to be like, yes. And I was like, then why do my 53-year-old clients still fall into these patterns? And it's not that we don't know about the red flags. It's that we talk ourselves out of them being red flags because we think our love is enough, or, you know, we pray the right prayer, they're going to turn into a different person. If, you know, I mean, it just gets all these crazy things in our head going. I'm not insulting prayer or the power of prayer in any way. I'm saying, you know, asking the universe or God or whoever to transform, you know, a frog into a prince just out of your sheer hope that it will happen is a bad strategy.
Yes. And so the question is, what feelings are we afraid to feel? I think is the answer. So like, if you meet some guy and like you really like him, right? He whisks you away, which is often a flag. Just putting that out there. But if he too good to be true, amazing, you're having all the feelings, right? And then he does something that is like, he starts to get you to cut yourself off from other people. Like he starts to get controlling or whatever. That feeling is there of like, ooh, what is this? But we ignore that feeling and grasp onto but he whisked the first 2 weeks, it was amazing, right? We grasp onto the other feeling. So it's sitting with all of our feelings and sitting in them and stepping back and saying, okay, what am I feeling? And then also, why am I afraid to feel this? Because usually the not wanting to see the red flags or the things that are happening is because it feels like it's scarier to start over or to be alone than to ignore it and move forward. But if we allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to feel all of our emotions, and that doesn't mean that we're flying around screaming at people. It can be it's a very internalized process, but sitting with them and saying, okay, what is actually happening here? And again, am I getting my answer of what my next step is, or do I need to gather more information to see what's happening here? And doing that provides us with the ability to really assess what's happening and be able to move from there. But because we've been taught to not feel our feelings or trust our feelings, we're stunted in the ability to do that. And the truth is that our feelings are very, very insightful and powerful if we are willing to feel all of them.
Well, I had a client yesterday and she said, when, you know, he acts nice to me, because you're talking about the 2 weeks and whisk away, right? So when he's nice to me, that's normal. That's the real him. And when he acts mean to me, that's abnormal. And I said, okay, so let's start from there, right? His data, how he behaves is who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is one way and sometimes it is another, which is that cognitive dissonance piece.
Mm-hmm.
But we do ourselves a huge disservice when we say, when someone's good to me, that's their norm, that's who they are. When someone's mean to me, they're just having a bad day.
Right. And the answer is, what do you think when you also get quiet with yourself? What do you deserve?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So do you deserve somebody who's really nice some of the time and that's the real them, but they're going to fly off the handle and be awful to you sometimes too? Or do you, being here, a person on this earth, living a life, potentially the one chance of it, do you deserve only that? Mm-hmm. Or are you like, now I know what it feels like to be loved some of the time, and I am now that I know what it feels like, thank you very much, I'm going to go find somebody who is consistent with it.
And consistency within toxic relationships, we talk about the pattern, right? Everybody's going to have bad days. Everybody's going to say things they don't mean to sometimes. That is fine. Is there a consistent pattern of anger, a consistent pattern of disrespect, a consistent pattern of calling you too sensitive, minimizing your feelings, mm-hmm. telling you, to expect my husband now to understand every single feeling I've ever had about everything. And that's pretty unrealistic. And yet, if there had been a pattern of you're too sensitive, a pattern of you're too this, a pattern of you're too whatever, that's data, and it's bad data.
Exactly. And there are lines also. There are levels and lines. Yeah. So I've been with my husband. We're coming up on our 15-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
We had our 2-year yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we went to eat Italian food.
I know. It's like, what are we doing for our anniversary? I don't know. Shutting the door and pretending the kids aren't outside. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But when I have clients, and I also work with teenage girls in my practice, and they're in relationships, and they're like, he said F you, and and I was like, I've been married with my husband for 15 years, and he has never, ever, ever said that to me.
Yeah, I had been with my husband for 6 years, 5 years, 6 now. So married too. Same, right? Never, not one time did he.
Never. So there's a limit, and again, some people communicate in that way. Okay. Do you want to spend your life with someone who communicates that way?
And do you want your children to see you being talked to that way? Mm-hmm. Do you want, we think about the people that we're in relationships with, wanting them to have integrity, and we miss the piece of having the integrity within ourselves to not stand for that. And thinking, and it helps me to think about it in terms of integrity to myself rather than what I deserve. And maybe that's still some piece in me that needs to be healed. But, it's like, what do I deserve? I don't know. It feels like that can be, but when it's like, does it align with my integrity to put myself in situations where someone's saying, F you, this is who you are, this is who you should be? No, that's an easy answer for me. There are no blocks. There are no barriers that say, no, that is not aligned with my integrity to put up with that behavior.
Yeah, I remember when it wasn't so much that I deserved it, but it was, I saw other people who had it, and I just knew that they didn't deserve it more than me. Like,
that's a good distinction.
Better people. So I was like, I'm not going to settle.
Yeah.
Until I have what it appears like they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Models are really important also. Mm-hmm. And so back to like that uncomfortable feeling. Okay. What I also share is that we all, as a human race, just like when we go to that lion, rock, crocodile, all those analogies, we instinctively run away from pain and towards pleasure. That's what we do. So if leaving the relationship appears to be more painful than getting away from whatever's being said to you, right, for the percentage of time, then you're going to stay, and you're going to push that down, right? And you're going to stay in a relationship. So that's, again, why it's so important to sit back and look at what's actually happening feel those feelings and then start to say like, why am I feeling it? It's, if you don't look at it, then you live with it. You know, you're not ever.
You don't look at it, then you live with it. That's a great quote. Yeah. Yeah.
It's that gaping wound.
Yeah.
That you're just not cleaning. You're like, I'm just not going to pay attention to the fact that there's a gaping wound somewhere because the rest of my body is fine. So you're like dragging that leg around with you and you're like, I'm not paying attention to it and a lot of times it's because we think, well, at least my whole body isn't injured. Right. So there's that, like that situation where you're talking about yesterday with your client where it's like, well, 75% of the time he's awesome. And it's only 25% of the time. And it's only when he drinks, or it's only when he gets really stressed out at work, or it's only when, whatever, fill in the blank. It's still a gaping wound. It's an issue. So the options are to either resolve it as a couple or, you've got to heal the wound some way.
But and in this situation, I think she had said, I'm pretty sure she quoted me, 99% of the time, it's what she's calling abnormal behavior. And it's a 1% relief. Yeah.
I just got chills.
Right? Like, she said that, and so I think it was so intuitive between us, that you even use that analogy of like the 25% or whatever. It's like, actually, she said, and still that point of sitting with the fear of starting over is scarier to her. Yeah. We're working through this, but scarier to her than putting up with 99% of hell.
Yeah. And that's where it's so dangerous for us to build that muscle of ignoring what we're feeling.
Preach it, sister. I mean, yes. And that's where, when we tell our kids to ignore their feelings or when we start ignoring our feelings, the cost of that, there is 0 chance you can become toxic person proof. And there's 100% chance that toxic people are going to be gnawing on your arm and creating gaping wounds in your leg. And you're going to be like, I can drink it away. I can this it away. I can exercise it away. I can ignore it. I can whatever. And it's just not like a thing. Like that is just not, it's just not a thing.
I mean, people do it, right? People definitely do. And we also get told these stories as women about what's the right thing to do. And again, a lot of them are ignoring our instinct and our feelings. So like you're in a relationship with a guy who now you're realizing is toxic, but you have 2 children with him. And like divorce is bad.
Yes.
You're going to get divorced. You're going to, what are you going to leave your kid? Like, what are your finances going to look like? Your finances are going to be bad. So, or what are people going to think about you? Like, what is this all going to look like? So we, again, are told these stories and we paint ourselves in corners when if we really just sat with our feelings and really dug down and really asked the question of like, what's the best situation really for my kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
We would probably come up with an answer that's in alignment with what our feelings are and not in a situation where we have to like push our feelings down to help our kids. We're so instinctive as mothers to do anything for them.
Yeah.
But we get taught that sacrificing our life is what's good for them, and really showing them how to feel their feelings and use and move within them is an amazing gift to give them.
Well, Glennon Doyle uses the term martyr motherhood, and I love it so much. And I said, okay, so my job as a mother is to teach my daughter that she's not allowed to have feelings, that she is always the least important person in the room, that it's always her job to be everybody else's servant, that she's never supposed to take time for herself or invest in herself. And I'm going to teach my son. So also at the same time, I'm modeling to my son that his job is to take it. My job is to be his servant. Women are supposed to be his servant. His sister's supposed to take, you think about that cycle. And then I'm going to be standing at my son's wedding or my daughter's wedding going, this is the most beautiful thing. I'm so excited about their future of relationships. No.
Right. Exactly.
No is my answer to that now.
Yes.
No is my answer to that now.
100%. 100%. It's, and that's again, passing it on to the next generation of like, you feel those feelings and it is uncomfortable for everyone. When I have my kids running around, like my little one, especially stuck in his feelings, running around, upset, my instinct initially is to do whatever I need to do to get him to just calm down, because it's uncomfortable for me to watch. But it's when first of all, when I accept the fact that I can't fix those feelings.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything in that situation, but let him have whatever he's having.
Mm-hmm.
It's the after conversation when he's able to work through it and then kind of figure out like what just happened, what's actually going on, what am I actually feeling, and then communicate that he grows exponentially, and so do I.
Yes.
So we don't want to suppress them.
Mm-hmm. And teaching, you just taught him to save himself rather than needing someone else to be his savior.
Yeah, we can't save them. We can teach them to push it down so that we're more comfortable and it's easier for us, right? We can teach them that. We can teach them to not express them everywhere we go. Like I say, if we really felt our feelings, we'd all be standing on line in the post office, like lying down, kicking and screaming and being like, can you please move? Like it would be chaos, right? Mm-hmm. So there may be some times where you kind of hold it in for a second, right? But feelings to me are an energy that if you don't let them out appropriately where they actually match up, they're coming out somewhere.
Yeah.
In
cancer.
Yeah.
In fibromyalgia.
Absolutely.
Right.
100%. In migraines.
In migraines. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Amy, tell us where we can find a bit more about you. And this conversation is definitely not over. The next time I have Amy on, we're going to be talking about lies we tell ourselves about finding love. So
I have an Instagram that's at Successful Single Female. Our website is the same, www.successfulsinglefemale.com. And we also have a podcast, Successful Single and Not Willing to Settle, the podcast. And we already discussed that I would love to have you on that. So for that episode where Sarah.
Yes. Yeah, I'll share that with my audience too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Amy. Thanks for talking to us about sitting with our uncomfortable feelings so that we can learn to become toxic person proof. Excited to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me. Bye.